In the summer of 1995, two Amish sisters, Iva and Elizabeth Volt, hitched their horse to the family's wagon and rolled out of their California valley. Neither the horse nor the wagon ever returned. For 9 years, whispers haunted the settlement as neighbors speculated the sisters had run away, abandoning faith for the forbidden freedoms of the English world. Their mother, Quilla Volt, lived with the silence, never believing her daughters had chosen to vanish. In 2004, state inspectors surveying abandoned mine shafts found proof that silenced every rumor. At Site 44B, jammed deep into the earth, lay the Volt wagon, the very one the girls had taken that day. It was warped and skeletal, streaked with mud and rust, its broken wheels reminding Quilla of an animal's carcass dredged from some abyss. She stared at the ugly weld along its rear axle, the repair her late husband had made himself. It was theirs. The wagon was a tombstone without a grave. But its grim presence raised a darker question. If the wagon ended here, where were the sisters? The elders of the Amish settlement urged Quilla to accept God's will. To them, the discovery meant nothing more could be done, closure without answers. But for Quilla, silence was unbearable. "My daughters were taken by evil," she told the bishop. "This was not God's hand." The police found little. Years of mud erased any trace of DNA or cloth. The mystery might have remained buried if not for an attack that shook the settlement. Zila Hostetler, a 19-year-old neighbor walking home one evening, was accosted on the road by a large man who tried to force her into a heavy vehicle. She fought him with surprising ferocity, bit his hand, and fled into the corn. Later, sobbing, she told Quilla she remembered the man's stench more than his face. Yeast, stale beer, sour sweat. His voice was thick with bitterness. He accused her of being a fraud, of thinking herself pure. That smell, that venom, stuck in Quilla's mind. If the sisters' wagon had been hidden in the mining country and a man hostile to Amish women prowled nearby, this was not a stranger passing through. It was someone rooted in their land. Days later, Quilla found an envelope nailed roughly to her gate. In crude block letters, it read, "Stop searching. They are dead anyway. Leave the past buried, or more will follow." She stood trembling in her yard, the words slicing into her heart. Far from deterring her, the threat confirmed what she already felt. The man who had taken her girls was still watching, and he feared what she might discover. Driven by rage and courage, Quilla retraced her daughter's last delivery route from 1995. Every stop felt like reliving a ghost. The last known stretch of road where they had been seen skirted the foothills, lined with dense woods. Pausing there, Quilla noticed something few would have spotted, a narrow, overgrown track disappearing into the trees, once a service road for loggers or miners. It offered isolation, ambush, and direct access to the mining country where the wagon had later been found. It was a perfect abduction site. The attacker knew these lands intimately, knew where to hide. Someone local, someone who despised the Amish. In the town of Oakhaven, Quilla questioned old farmers, her determination unnerving to some of them. At a feed store, an elderly man finally remembered a volatile customer from the 1990s. Nasty piece of work, ex-Amish, always railing that your people were hypocrites. Thought he could make it rich with a brewery. Failed. Haven't seen him in years. His name was blurred by time. Started with a B. Baxter? Burr, maybe? But I'll never forget the smell, like he bathed in yeast. Quilla turned to the county records office, an alien world of bureaucracy that she endured through sheer will. Finally, she found what she needed. Bitter Creek Brewing, licensed in 1994, bankrupt in 1996. Owner, Kenton Burr. The name chilled her. Russo confirmed Burr's criminal record: DUIs, bar fights, assaults. More chilling still, Burr had once lived in a Pennsylvania Amish community where, in 1992, a teen girl had vanished without a trace. His name had crossed police files then, too, but no charges stuck. Russo had him placed under surveillance. Burr now lived in a crumbling apartment 3 hours north and drove a dark blue Bronco. He spent suspicious hours holed up at the abandoned shell of Bitter Creek Brewing, isolated behind barbed wire. The evidence was tantalizing, but circumstantial. Without more, the police could not move. To Quilla, the caution was maddening. For 9 years she had waited. She would not wait another day. She traveled north herself, watched him from the shadows, saw the heavy-set angry man for herself. His gait radiated aggression. His unkempt frame oozed the bitterness described by everyone who remembered him. When she approached the brewery under the cover of night, she found it guarded by a ferocious Rottweiler. Through cracks in the wall came the suffocating stench of yeast and something worse, rot, human and heavy. At dawn she confronted Burr in public, standing before his booth in a local diner. "Kenton Burr," she said clearly, "I want to know what happened to my daughters." The man froze before snarling, his rage erupting like thunder. He called her names, flipped the table, screamed that she had no right to question him. The other patrons stared in shock as he threatened to kill her. Quilla fled into crowded streets, chased, and barely slipped onto a bus. The confrontation left her shaken, but it had rattled him. His mask had slipped. That night, while Burr scoured the town searching for her, she returned to the brewery. Slipping raw meat laced with sedatives to the guard dog, she climbed a broken window and entered. Inside was a cavern of shadows, reeking of stale beer and despair. Rusted vats loomed like skeletons. Empty bottles and trash made a nest in one corner, littered with scribbled rants about the Amish. Scraps of scripture twisted into curses. A mind dissolved. Deeper inside she found it, a heavy, cold storage chamber sealed with a shiny new padlock. Beyond the door came a faint sound, movement, a whisper of breath. Quilla's arms trembled as she forced the rusty bolt cutters around the lock, pressed with every ounce of her strength, and snapped it. The door opened on freezing air and choking stench. A girl crouched in the corner of the cell, thin, filthy, her hair tangled, her clothes ragged. Her eyes were wide, pale blue, terrified of the figure entering. As Quilla whispered her name, the girl flinched and muttered, "No, I am nothing. He said you were dead." Quilla's heart shattered. It was Iva, alive, 9 years imprisoned in darkness, stripped of self. Only when Quilla spoke tenderly in Pennsylvania Dutch, humming the lullabies of childhood, did recognition flicker through. "Mama," Iva whispered, disbelief breaking into sobs. The two clung together, mother and daughter entwined under the bare bulb in that filthy room, a love that time and cruelty had not extinguished. Through broken words, Iva recalled what had happened. When Burr stopped their wagon, Elizabeth resisted fiercely. He struck her, and she fell against the buggy, never to rise again. Panicking, he dragged both to the brewery. Elizabeth was gone. Iva he locked away, kept alive, punished, indoctrinated under his madness. For 9 years, she was entombed. The reunion ended with a roar of an engine outside. Burr had returned. Quilla pulled her daughter into the shadows as Burr discovered the open cell door. His screams tore through the warehouse as he ransacked his lair, grabbing a metal pipe and hunting them through the towering vats. Quilla held Iva close, waiting for the inevitable. When Burr found them, the struggle became primal. He swung wildly. She dodged and toppled unstable equipment into his path. Finally, with despair and fury raging, she shoved a corroded fermentation vat until the structure groaned, tipped, and crashed down upon him with a deafening metallic roar. The weight flattened him, pinning him, in shrieking rage. Quilla and Iva fled into the night, running blind down the road until the headlights of a passing truck gave them salvation. With the trucker's phone, Quilla called Detective Russo. "I found her," she gasped. "Iva is alive. He's there, trapped." Police swarmed the brewery. Burr was dragged out, wounded but alive, screaming scripture and venom. Forensics found Elizabeth's locket, ribbon, and a wooden carving hidden in his belongings, confirming Iva's story. They also confirmed his connection to the long, cold Pennsylvania case. His decade-long cruelty, his targeted hatred, was finally laid bare. He was charged with murder, kidnapping, and abuse, and sentenced to life without parole. Quilla's return to her community was bittersweet. Elizabeth was mourned with a proper memorial at last, the settlement gathering to grieve the daughter gone. But the elders, once pressing for silence, now embraced Quilla, admitting their failing. They surrounded her and her surviving daughter with support. Months passed. Iva's healing was slow and agonizing. 9 years of abuse had scarred her deeply, leaving her withdrawn, fearful, barely able to speak. Quilla remained steadfast, moving into a home near her care facility, bringing small tokens of their life before, a quilt, carved wood, the scent of lavender. She spoke in their native tongue, reminding Iva, thread by thread, that life still had warmth. One afternoon, Quilla set up a quilting frame in the common room. Fabrics of bright blues and purples spread across the wood. Iva paused, watching. Her hand reached tentatively toward the cloth. Quilla urged her gently, "Do you remember? We used to quilt together." With trembling hands, Iva took the needle and pushed it through once. A small, crooked stitch, but a beginning. Quilla smiled through tears. The darkness had claimed much, but not everything. And so, together, mother and daughter stitched forward into the fragile light, one imperfect thread at a time.